Okay, lesson 8. We're going to be factoring polynomials that have more than 3 terms. If you have polynomials with more than 3 terms, we'll factor by grouping. Okay, so if we take a look, this first one here, okay, we have 8t cubed, 14t squared, 20t, and 35. Always check, just like we always do, is there a greatest common factor that we can factor out of all 4 of these? And in this case, there isn't. So then when we can't do that, now we factor by grouping, it's called. So we're going to group the first 2 together and then the second 2 together. Now after I've grouped them together, I find the GCF of the first 2 terms. So GCF of 8 and 14 is going to be 2. And then GCF of t cubed and t squared would be t squared. Now what I have left would be 4t. If I take this divided by 2t squared, 8 divided by 2 is 4, and t cubed divided by t squared is t, plus 14 divided by 2 is 7, and t squared divided by t squared is 1. They just cancel each other out. Okay, plus, now we have to find the GCF of the second group. Well, between 20 and 35, the GCF will be 5. And then what is left? Well, 4t, because 20 divided by 5 is 4. And then there's a t there. And then 35 divided by 5 is 7. Now, if I did it correctly, I should have the same thing in both pairs of parentheses, which we do. And just like we had done in the past, the outside is a binomial, so 2t squared plus 5, because that's the outside. And then the common inside is our other binomial, so 4t plus 7. And that would be our answer then. Okay? So if we look at some other ones, see if there's a GCF right away at the beginning. 6, 9, 12, and 18. Okay, GCF would be 3. And then I can also take an H out of all of those. So I'm going to take that 3H out right away and then rewrite whatever I have left. So 6 divided by 3 is 2. H to 4th divided by H is H to 3rd. 9 divided by 3 is 3. H to 3rd divided by H is H squared. 12 divided by 3 is 4. And then just H. And then 6. Okay? And then from there I'm going to factor by grouping. So I'm going to group this first group together and then the second group. So this 3H just tags along the whole way. Okay, that doesn't change anything. So now my first group, my GCF is just going to be H squared, because there is no GCF between 2 and 3. But I can take an H squared out of both of those. And then what I have left would be 2H plus 3. Okay, and then the next one, I can take a 2 out of both 4 and 6, but I can't take an H out of both of them. So I'm just going to have 2 as my GCF. And then 2H plus 3. Okay, so now, remember, the 3H tags along, and my first binomial is going to be the outside, so H squared plus 2. And then my second binomial is the common inside, 2H plus 3. Okay? So the only difference in this one than the last one was that we could factor something out right away at the beginning. Okay. And then the last one, very similar to what we were doing in the past, but now there's some negative numbers in there, and that's okay. So finding GCF right away at the beginning, I can take a 4 out of everything, and I can also take a Q out of everything. And then I divide to see what I have left. 4 divided by 4 is 1, so then I have q cubed minus 2q squared plus 3q minus 6. And then I factor by grouping. So this group and this group. So 4q tags along. My first group, GCF, is going to be q squared. So I have q minus 2 left after I factor out q squared out of this first one. Plus GCF for the second group is going to be 3. And what I have left is going to be q minus 2. Okay, and then I just find my two binomials, the 4q tagging along, the outside, q squared plus 3, and then the common inside, q minus 2. And that's going to be completely factored then. Okay? The last one, I can take an x out of everything and I can take a 2 out of everything. So factor out a 2x right away at the beginning and then rewrite what I have left. I have x cubed minus 7x squared minus just x because the 2 cancels each other out, and then plus 7. And then I break them into two groups, the first part and then the second part. So now I have the 2x that tags along. And GCF of my first group is going to be just x squared. Okay. And then what do I have left? Well, I have x and then minus 7. Now GCF of the second group. Now I have to be careful here because I want this to be positive and I want the 7 to be negative. Okay, so though there really isn't a GCF of either of them, I do want to factor out a negative 1 because if I divide by negative 1 in from both of these terms, then it's going to make the x positive and the 7 negative. Okay, so now I find my two binomials, so the outside with the 2x tagging along, the outside is x squared minus 1, inside x minus 7, the common inside. So when you, just like when we did it with the other factoring, you always want to make sure that this is going to be common each time. So you factor out the right number. That's why I factored out negative 1 here. Okay? So this lesson is some review. You just see something where you have more than 3 terms, which it really isn't too bad when you break it into the groups. Then it's kind of factoring like we've done in the past. So if you have any questions, make sure you write them down. Otherwise, we'll talk more about it tomorrow, and have a good night.